Hey there, everybody. Come on in. Welcome. Say hi as you come in and let me know if you're watching this live or you're watching this replay. Now, before we get started, I have a big fat question for you. Do you have employees? Because if you don't, this episode, not for you. If you do have employees, then sit your little butt down and listen up because I'm going to tell you right now the most annoying thing over the holidays is when you end up having to be the bad guy because you're getting multiple employee requests for time off over the holidays at the same time for the same days. And you're having to now decide whether you're going to stay open those days and try to run the whole show by yourself or close and make no income over the busiest time of the year, right? So we're going to tackle this subject today. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to jump on over to my website and download the workbook that goes with this lesson. It is on the show notes page for episode 57 of my podcast, The Six Figure Biz. Now, this week we're talking about employees. Why? Because the holidays are the busiest time of year. And if you have been in business for longer than one hot minute, then you probably realize that you can't go alone, right? You can't do this by yourself. You need a team underneath you. And the moment you start getting that team underneath you, a whole bunch of additional headaches start, right? You've got to manage that team. You got to know how to hire. You got to know how to correct the employees when they're making mistakes. You got to know how to discipline them when they intentionally do something wrong, and when to let them go and when to keep on and try to encourage them to do better, etc. A lot of that I teach right here inside the Go Getter group, right? But this year, I wanted to talk specifically about the holiday season because you have a number of things that come up this time of year that don't really come up the rest of the year, right? For one thing, your employees are seeing family members that they don't see other times of the year. And sometimes those family members are actually quite toxic in their lives. You ever had that happen before? I know I have one family member in particular I won't mention who always has to say something about my career choices, right? Like, why couldn't I just be another happy plug along 9-to-5er? And she probably will never understand why my choice was to become an entrepreneur and be a business owner. So I never see that person because I don't enjoy having them in my life. But when the holidays come around, they're at family reunions, etc. And so we get connected up to these toxic personalities during that time. And sometimes your employees can start to misbehave as a result of that toxic influence in their life. So that's one thing you have to watch out for, is people who suddenly start acting a little bit differently when they were fine the rest of the year. The other thing that comes up quite frequently is this external influence we have in our lives from the need to have of the holiday seasons, right? All of a sudden you need to have way more income than you had the rest of the year so you can buy presents for everybody. You need to have a perfect home and a perfectly set table at Thanksgiving. All these things that we suddenly need to have that we didn't have those financial stresses in our lives the rest of the year. And so employees can start to misbehave and request odd things like bonuses and time off that maybe they didn't even earn, right? But we still have this societal expectation. And also you have compassion as a business owner. You need a lot of compassion to get yourself through every decision as a business owner, and especially around the holidays. So with all of these problems facing us every year, I wanted to do a lesson with you guys on how to manage employees over the holidays and be respectful, really encourage them to show up as their best selves and do a great job over the holiday, which is usually your business time of the year. And then how to manage it if you are going to close the business for a few days over the holidays, if you already know that most of your employees want the same days off, right? How do we manage these conversations? How do we manage these expectations that society has for your business and for you as a business owner during the holiday season? So the first thing I want to bring up is, if you haven't already, I highly recommend you head on over to my website, sarahnicolenadler.com/episode 57, and download the Holiday HR Blueprint. I created this workbook for you so that you could actually manage those conversations and really prepare your business the right way for the type of employee time off requests and things like that you already know you're going to get them, right? Let's prepare ahead of time. The first tip I have for you is have a team meeting with your guys now, right? I know it's September, it seems a little bit early, but now is the perfect time to sit down with them and set expectations for behavior and time off over the next 4 months. I say 4 months because I want to include the rest of September all the way through New Year's, right? So let them know who's going to get precedence if two people want the same day off, how you're going to manage that. I recommend writing these things down so everybody has it in writing exactly what the expectation is, letting them know how much time off and what holidays are paid and which ones aren't, etc. So everybody just knows the rules of the road and we all can start steering in the same direction. Okay. I also recommend that you ask your employees to please send you their time off requests before September 30th. That way, you as a business owner can predict the schedule. You can predict how much income you're going to be able to make with the number of staff that you'll have, right? And you can see whether it's going to be better for the business to shut down for a couple of days while everybody takes the same time off, or if you're going to try to remain open, you can start figuring out now how that's going to work. This also gives you an opportunity, hey, thanks for coming over, to actually sit down and figure out, okay, if these guys are going to be out that week, right, or those days, then do I need to start setting aside income now towards reserves so that we can cover bills in those weeks that maybe you aren't going to be open or you're going to have very few staff or employees to support you, right? That's my first tip, is really do some great planning now in September so that you don't get sideswiped or blindsided by these requests. The next thing I recommend is actually sitting down and having your employees iron out for themselves or within themselves, with your encouragement and support, right, when it is appropriate to ask each other for coverage, right? Because let's say someone is going to take time off and they're holding some key duties in your position or in your business. Well, maybe it would be a good idea for them to go to 2 or 3 of their colleagues and say, hey, would you mind taking on this task while I take the day off with my family? And then when it's your turn, I'll do the same, right? If we can get that kind of reciprocity going in the business, it's going to be a lot smoother and a lot more fun to work there than if we don't have any kind of agreement whatsoever that anybody will cover anyone for anything. Because guess what? Hats float up, right? So if they're not covering it at their level, then all those duties, when they're taking their time off, are going to come on your plate, right? And that's not really fair to you either. So making sure we set that expectation and help the employees have guidance in regards to how to iron out these conversations and ask each other for coverage, etc. And just set that as an expectation, right? The next thing I recommend is sit down yourself and figure out how you're going to handle it if 2 employees do come to you with the same days off and you can't give both, right? Who's going to get priority? Is it going to be, longevity in the business? Is it going to be just whoever asked first, right? Whatever you decide, put that in writing and set it as an expectation and let your employees know ahead of time so they're prepared when it happens. This will help reduce the amount of emotion and reaction they have to that circumstance because they already knew what was coming, right? And then lastly, I recommend that you actually sit down yourself, and anytime an employee starts to misbehave over the holidays, really take a look at what's underlying that, right? Especially if this is someone who's usually a high performance employee, they do a great job, they usually have a great attitude, and then suddenly out of the blue, they're acting like the Green Grinch of Christmas or something. Really take a look at that and begin preparing your business with things like HR tools, setting expectations around how the conversation will go, etc. Even just practicing it in a mirror so that if someone comes and they're misbehaving or they're being confrontational, they're giving you an attitude that they don't normally give you, you actually are prepared to calmly ask them what's really going on and get at the root cause of whatever's happening in their life. Because usually it's something that happened outside of the business, right? Normally it's like they're having a bad time at home, or they had to see that toxic Aunt Mabel, right? Who they don't normally have to see, or they have added stresses financially, et cetera, over the holidays. And it's important to really take your business owner hat off for a minute and put your HR hat on and have that conversation in such a way that you're really trying to help the person get at the root cause for their own misbehavior and their own poor attitude, and turn things around. So inside the workbook that you guys can download for free, like I said, it's sarahnicolenadler.com/episode 57. If you go ahead and download that workbook, you'll see I actually gave scenarios of common misbehavior over the holidays and exact steps that you can take to handle that conversation so it doesn't become confrontational. It's not this big misemotional traumatic experience for both of you, but you can have like a calm, collected conversation with the employee and really help dig under and find out what's really going on in their lives. If you do find toxicity or you find a scenario that you're not quite sure how to handle, reach out to me. That's what this group coaching program is all about, is for you guys to be able to reach out and ask questions, go, hey, I'm running into this scenario. What do you think, Sarah? What should I do about this situation? And I will definitely give you my best tips. All right. There you go. This is your plan for the holidays, HR, how you're going to manage your employees, manage time off, etc. I did provide that workbook for you, so please do go ahead and download that. I gave a lot more examples than this inside my episode 57 of the Six Figure Biz, so go ahead and check that out as well. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Have a good week.